Right. Why are there so many religions? Important question. A question that will come up regularly and repeatedly. This may come as a surprise to you when I say this, but there are in fact only two religions. The one is the worship of God, and the other is the worship of Satan. But you may say, there's Christianity, there's Hinduism, there's Judaism, there's Islam, there's... Surely you are not correct. I'm going to give you the perspective as we understand it as given by God's teachings. God created man in paradise. But before that he had created the earth, and he had created the provisions there for man, because God knew that man was going to get there for a purpose. Man was created. When man came to earth, God did not abandon him. God sent messengers to man. And over the time of man's existence on earth, God had sent over 124,000 different messengers. Over 124,000 different messengers. Every single nation on earth was sent a messenger from God. At a particular point in time, when the message came to a particular people, they would have called their religion by a certain name. Later, as times had changed, God gave more knowledge to man, and the followers of that prophet or that messenger of God gave their understanding of the knowledge that was given by God a different name. And as time went on, other prophets came and their followers went by a different name. And that is why we have so-called religions. But it's not religion, it's the same religion. It's just the people following different prophets, and those who follow different prophets going by different names. Now, when Prophet Muhammad came, and he is the last of God's messengers, he was sent as the messenger in order to confirm all the teachings that came in the past, and to remove any discrepancies that may have crept in over time. So in fact, if you look at the message that he gives to us from God, it will confirm all the other teachings, whichever other religion you want to call yourself. And while it may seem logical for everyone to follow the teachings that were sent by the last prophet, this does not always happen that way. And so we must respect, in terms of man's free will, that people may choose to continue following the teachings as they understood it, as it was given by a particular prophet of God, and that we must respect their decision to do so in terms of their free will. The only thing that makes a Muslim different from other believers in God is that the Muslim, in terms of God's injunction, is that individual who accepts all of God's prophets, respects all of them, honors all of them. And because the teachings that had come down at the end confirms all the other teachings, by following the teachings sent by the last prophet, they are in fact following the teachings of all the prophets. So there isn't this multiplicity of religions. And here we need to get at a very important point. When we look at the very orthodox and the very strong believers of each of the different so-called religions, they become so dogmatic that they insist that their approach to God through that particular messenger of God, through the teachings of that particular messenger, is the only and absolute truth, to such an extent that every other person who claims to be worshipping God is actually a worshipper of Satan. And this is very dangerous, because when we do that, we who are good, pious worshippers in God are actually doing Satan's work. Because this is what Satan wants. He wants us to create conflict between believers in God and to create strife between believers in God, so that we will not be together as one strong body against our common enemy, which is Satan. This is very important. So there's not a question about one being wrong or all being wrong. We are all worshippers of God. And if we choose and exercise our free will and prefer to remain worshipping God through our particular prophet, that is something we have got to learn to accept. Now, here comes a very important question. If God created the earth for man, in anticipation that man is going to be coming on the earth, and also God tells us, God promises us that He is going to test us, that we are going to be tested. So the question arises is, why? And God also tells us that while He is going to test us, He will never give us a burden greater than we can carry. So even though we are faced with these challenges in life, we know in advance that God will not give us a problem heavier than we can carry. Why is this important? And furthermore, God also tells us that nobody will have any wrong done to him. So in other words, I will never be punished for the wrong that somebody else had done. So if my father did something wrong, I won't be punished. If I do something wrong, my father won't be punished. I will be punished for what I do, and my father will be punished for what he does. And this is a very important principle, a principle that we need to carry. You see, these principles are what form the foundation of the God believer, the believer in God. This forms the foundation of our thinking. Because if we are faced in any situation in life where some decision has to be made, we draw on our foundation to help us come to a conclusion. And since we know that God will never burden us with a problem greater than we can carry, that He will never punish us for something we have not done, whenever we are faced in a situation where we are told the contrary, we can immediately know that that contrary is false, because it is not in keeping with the principles that God has given us. Why has God sent us on earth? What is our purpose here? And this is very important, because if God is bringing us to earth and we are here on earth, if we don't know why we are here, then our entire stay over here could be a waste. Take the example of an individual who gets into his car and just starts driving. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know why he's in the car to start off with. He doesn't know where he's supposed to go. He doesn't know where he's going to end up. That person is a lost person. So, in order for our existence to be fruitful, it has to achieve the objective for which we are here. And in order for us to achieve the objective for which we are here, we've got to know what that objective is. When you ask people why we are here, they'll give many reasons. Some will say to serve God, to be good, to have children, to fight Satan, to enjoy ourselves, to make the best of life, to evolve to a higher state. I have simplified my understanding of what God teaches us by putting the answer to this question in this simple statement. We are here on earth in order to prove our worthiness of our place in paradise. God has already created a place for us in paradise. All we have to do is to prove our worthiness of being there. And if we are successful in proving this, then we will qualify for paradise. Now, paradise is something that we need to conceptualize. A very pious and a very noble scholar once described paradise as a barren place.